NBA free agency has begun. Let's check in on how the Spurs are doing.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everybody, this is Nathan Ray Clark from Criminal Minds and Modern Family, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs, hosted by Victor Wembanyama's new best friend, Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs, right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Hope you're enjoying your day off or half day off, whatever it is. Hope you're going to have a great day, fun times, watch a lot of fireworks, eat a lot of food, and all that good stuff on this happy 4th of July. Hey, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Your first-time users get themselves a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. So what are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at the Spurs and what they've done so far during free agency, and also if the team should go ahead and chase a big-name player with all those assets they got as the offseason has just begun. But as far as the free agency moves the team has made right now, a lot of Spurs fans are upset. You know, why haven't they gone after Dame? Why did they go after Van Vliet? Why didn't they go after X, Y, and Z player? And I get it. It's frustrating. A lot of Spurs fans see this team sitting on a ton of cash, ton of draft picks, and flippable players on the roster with nice contracts that any other NBA team would love to absorb. But, I mean, there's no secret. The Spurs have been telegraphing exactly what they're going to do, at least in year one with Wembanyama, is that they're going to take their time. I mean, Brian Wright has said it. I think Popovich has said it, that they've echoed this time and time again. Even before they made Wemby the number one choice and they won the lottery, they kept on repeating, we're going to see what we got. So, I mean, barring any type of sweet offer the Spurs may get for a big-name player, it's going to be interesting to see how the Spurs will approach this offseason as it continues, and of course, leading up to the trade deadline next season. What if Wemby is all that, and they are just rocking and rolling, and they're knocking on the door of, you know what, maybe we can make a deep playoff run? Well, I think maybe then they'll explore it. But if it's still kind of a work in progress, the kids are still not getting it, then don't expect the Spurs to make any major moves. And there's pros and cons on both sides, and I get both sides. I understand the cons. You know, why are you going to spend a bunch of money on aged players that perhaps don't want to be here? You know, just rent a player and that's it. And I get the other side too, is you go for it. You got yourself what we think is a all-world player with Wemby now. So why not build around him and make him the point moving forward, but surround him with winning now, especially what he said after the lottery that he wants to win immediately. So there's pros and cons on both ends of the spectrum here. But you know your silver and black. You know them. Historically, they've not made any major trades. I mean, you can count them on their hands. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you count DeJounte Murray as a major trade, perhaps, with all the draft picks they got from Atlanta. But that still bears to be seen if it was major, because the Spurs haven't cashed those picks in yet. So, in this opening little talk with you guys is, you're just going to have to sit back and watch how this Spurs team just rolls. And there's no complaining you can do on either end of the spectrum here. The Spurs are going to Spurs. And if they run the team back, then that's what they're going to do. And as of right now, it looks like that's what they're going to do, is simply run the team back. So, look, it's not a total loss. And Trey Jones, that's pretty good. I mean, it's a nice 2-year extension for him. You're looking at Champagne, at least in one game in Summer League in Sacramento, it looks like he cannot miss. But, this is still a rebuild. This is still retooling. Maybe it's not a big capital rebuild anymore. Maybe it's a lowercase rebuild, but it's still a rebuild nonetheless. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Spurs do swing for the fences and go for a major player, on a team that maybe he wants out. It doesn't have to happen right now. It doesn't have to happen in preseason or in summer league or, game one of the regular season. They have a lot of time until the trade deadline next year to make a move if they want to do that. So what I'm trying to get at is, don't jump the gun quite yet. They could make things happen. And that's what we're going to talk about today on Locked On Spurs with our guest. Let's go ahead and bring him on. He is James Pledger. He is with San Antonio Sports Star. And you can make sure to follow him on Twitter at @IamPledger. Pledger, welcome to Locked On Spurs. By the way, I see you repping Stephen F. Austin.
I am. My nephew goes to college there, and he got me some swag, so I'm supporting him. Like a good uncle should.
I thought you were supporting the Austin Spurs, which I know you do. But at first glance, before hit record, I go, Pledger, you're rocking Austin. I thought that was going to be cool. You rock some Austin Spurs gear. Unless you get some haters.
That would be trolling on a whole new level.
Exactly. You read my mind and say, unless you were trying to do something else by lighting the fires again about the whole relocation and the Spurs. But anyway, enough about that. That's for a whole other show. But Pledger, before we put a close on this for opening segment here, I just want to ask you something. The Spurs, they've made some move in free agency, but largely they're just seemingly running it back with Trey Jones resigned, Champagne resigned. Who
Champagne balling out.
He's balling out definitely in game one of the summer league. They added who else? They let Kata Jobs go, but they made a trade to get Seti Osman. Mamu's back. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, what has your been reaction so far with these moves the Spurs have made?
Well, they made a trade.
Yeah.
They brought in Seti Osman and Lamar Stevenson and an additional second-round pick and that Max Strus 3-team deal. Look, if the Spurs do anything else in free agency, it's going to be along those lines, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're going to make minor moves for now. And I think that's what a lot of Spurs fans have to understand, that the preseason / free agency has just begun. They got until when? February next year to still retool the roster?
And the fraction between team go make a move and get somebody massive and team let's see what the young guys have, that is almost as equal a fraction as team tank versus team play-in.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that, like the pros and cons of it, and if the Spurs should go after a big-name player later on in the show. Once again, he is James Pledger. He is with San Antonio Sports Star. You want to make sure to follow him. You see where you can follow him right there on the screen. And he is the host of Extra Innings with James Pledger, a brand new show on the Star, and co-host of the Saturday Morning Hangover. But when we get back, we're going to dive deeper into the Spurs moves. We're going to grade them and so much more right here on Locked On Spurs. But before we do all that, I want to talk to you about PrizePicks. Look, you got to try PrizePicks right now. It's everything you need in playing daily fantasy. Look, why stress over and go into all these other fantasy spots where you just simply go to prizepicks.com? So how does it work? Well, you pick 2 to 6 players. If they're going to score more or less than their PrizePick projections, you can win up to 25 times your money. You don't compete against anybody else. It's just you versus the projections available. And PrizePicks offers projections on any sport you watch: NBA, NFL, MMA, cricket, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, esports. I mean, the list goes on and on. They have projections on almost every sport. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. Super easy, safe and fast withdrawals. Currently operational over 30 states and Canada. Download PrizePicks app right now or go to prizepicks.com to sign up to play daily fantasy sports. First-time users get themselves a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit 100, PrizePicks gives you 100. If you deposit 50, PrizePicks gives you 50. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up and get that instant deposit match up to $100. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with my good friend James Pledger of San Antonio Sports Star, the only man I've seen rock Constantine, Red Hood, and who else have I missed on your Halloween cosplay?
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark, yeah.
I've got something special planned for this year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Special, you say?
Yeah.
Are you just a big stilts and going to go as Wimby?
I was the 10th Doctor one year.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But this year, I think after watching the masterpiece that was Across the Spiders, I'm going to go Morales.
That movie was incredible. I stood up and just applaud. But before this show gets off the train, we are going Nerdville. So
Okay.
bring it back, Mamu.
We can count it on one hand, right?
Exactly. Okay, we're doing Mamu. Mamu first. Sure, good, solid backup.
Solid bench. I liked what I saw out of him last year. If we're being honest,
I like that he's crafty. He's not just your typical brute in the paint. He can knock down the outside shot. He can pass.
Crafty. That's another one of those words.
But he is crafty.
He is. He's crafty. He's first guy in, last guy out, quicker than he is fast. I mean, all the white superlatives.
Well, but it's effective, though. I mean, I saw some passes that I haven't seen from a big man since Boris Diaw last year.
Yeah.
I mean, those were some really nice passes. And
I really do like the Mamu re-signing, though.
Yeah, young guy, again, team-friendly contract. And I like that it's flippable, too, if they want to make a deal this season, an expiring contract. The Spurs.
Oh, you're just holding out that hope for those ones that want the big move,
yes,
huh?
Yes. All right, let's go on. Okay, so solid. So I'll give that a solid A. That's a good move. Nice move. No, I'm not mad at that. Next move, bringing back Trey Jones. Now, this is where it gets a little dicey because a lot of Spurs fans wanted him to come back, but they didn't expect the Spurs to give him a lot of money. They didn't break the bank for him. He got a nice little hefty 2-year, $20 million reportedly deal.
Yep.
I am still camp Trey Jones remains starter because I don't think the majority of Spurs fans are giving him his due. Because if you look at his numbers, outside of his 3-point shooting, they are really good as a starter.
I don't disagree with you. I think Trey Jones improved significantly last year. And for a guy that's only in year 2, like his jump could be equally as big this year. I mean, look at the jumps we saw from Keldon 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3. I mean, he is taking steady jumps each time. So he's the one true point guard on this roster.
Right. And I think that's
everybody else is a hybrid.
And this team needs a true point guard.
Just for certain situations, yes.
Yes. And again, the big reason for me why I'm a bit of smile on my face about Trey Jones coming back, and as of right now, he's the starter, barring any type of injury or move the Spurs make, but is because he's consistent. And I like the consistency factor that he's going to bring to the position. He's available, rarely was out of action last year, even in the down season, played a bulk of the season. Okay, sure, he can't knock down a 3, but he does everything else well. Assist to turnover ratio, have you seen that?
I mean,
I think it's like 6-1.
He defends well, better in giving credit for. Like he finds a way to get his shots.
Right.
I don't hate it. I don't think he starts still.
Wow.
Just because look at the roster. Look at the roster is constructed and then tell me who's coming off the bench. Because Trey Jones can't start along with Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins and Victor Wembanyama and Jeremy Sohan. Like, too many guys. Somebody's got to come off the bench, right?
Right. Well, I think a guy like Wesley has to really shine in preseason and in camp. Well,
sure, but even he's unit 2, even if he plays outstanding. Yeah. Like, I just named 6-7 guys. Only 5 can start. Keldon may not be starting on this roster. Unless you have like Wemby or Sohan or somebody bringing the ball up or Devin. Like they're not, I don't think there's going to be a true point guard in the starting 5. As a matter of fact, I think the starting 5 will likely consist of Devin, Keldon, Sohan, Wemby, and Zach Collins, and that's your 5.
Yeah, I think the Spurs will go with Trey Jones to start the season. Now, that's obviously can change pretty fast, but you're right. Somebody's going to have to go to the bench. Keldon, Sohan, something's got to give. So,
Keldon did come off the bench in college, so he knows how to play that 6-man role. And how he broke down his shot last year, we know he's open to what the coaches want, what's best for the teams.
Right. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Trey Jones. I like the fact he not going to demand touches. if he does start, his touches are going to go to Wemby and Sohan and Vassell and whoever else is starting in the unit. He's not going to demand it, and he's fine doing it. I mean, his 3-point shot, hopefully he'll get better. Hopefully that's something he's focused on in the offseason. But even if you take him out, I mean, this team is still devoid of outside threats. I mean, Devontae Graham maybe, who knows where he's going to land. I mean, I know he's on the Spurs right now, but
there's another one.
yeah, Devontae Graham, is he a starter? Is he coming off that bench? I mean, if he's starting, I mean, that will spread the floor. But if he's not, that's a potent bench. So
it's a very potent bench.
Yeah. But overall, I'm going to give the Trey Jones re-signing an A. I think that's a solid move.
Yeah, like I said, I like the Trey Jones signing. $10 million, 2 years, eminently good outable contract if you have to. So I'm a fan of the Trey Jones deal. 7, 8. I think that's, if we're grading on a scale of 1 to 10. Yeah, it's a B signing.
Okay, I'm giving it an A, but he's giving it a B. But we'll see how that plays out next season. So we got Jones done, we got Mamu done, and they brought Julian Champagne, who at least in the first game of the Summer League, he cannot miss. We just talked about this lack of outside shooting. Perhaps Champagne could be the answer.
Yeah, I mean, he was tearing it up last night in the Summer League opener. And by the way, in case you missed it, Summer League started. No, not the Vegas one, the California one in Sacramento. So Blake Wesley's playing in this, Champagne's playing in this, Barlow's playing in this. Malachi was not, at least in the opener.
Right.
But
that's no big deal. The Spurs have done this before, not play players. Remember Sohan last year, but he was sick. He was sick. He had COVID. But nevertheless, though, Champagne could be a proven commodity where, dare I say, the Spurs may have to second guess about sending him to Austin. Maybe not stashing him as much in Austin and keeping him on that Spurs bench.
It would be nice. I mean, he's going to make the decision difficult, it looks like, with the way he at least started in Sacramento. But when you look at the Spurs roster, it is a very complex Rubik's Cube right now, because everybody does a little bit of everything. Nobody's a one jack kind of, Trey Jones is kind of the one, you're not playing him at the 2 or the 3. Like, he's kind of the one constant.
Right.
Zach Collins can play the 4 or the 5. You got Mamu can play either. Like, there's so many versatile pieces on this roster. Finding out who fits together, why they fit together, trying to carve out a role for Champagne. Like, all of these things are going to be the biggest difficulty of the year for the Spurs, because look, Devontae Graham looked good last year. So I understand why they're letting Romeo Langford walk now, for the most part. Like, I see what they're doing. I see the vision. This is a very positionless team across the board. And minutes, you only have 48 minutes in a game, and your starters command about 30 of those. So giving up those other 18 minutes amongst the other 5 guys, I mean, behind them, that's not everybody's getting the minutes that people think they should deserve, or that even the players themselves probably deserve. Devontae Graham, Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley. Pick 2, because one's not getting enough minutes unless there's injuries. But you look at the amount of players on this team that they have. Charles Bassey's going to come back healthy. He got a deal during the season. You can kind of add this to your free agency stuff. There's going to be some tough decisions made with this team as it portends to the roster. I don't envy them, because they're
No.
difficult. They're very difficult because I can see what they see in Champagne and why they gave him the contract they did now. I've always seen what they liked in Sohan. Malachi Branham made cases to be rookie of the month and probably of the year, like in the conversation of the top 10. Like Blake Wesley, we didn't get a really good look at last year. So will we this year? He's put on 14 pounds of muscle, which, by the way, for all those that are like, he's too skinny, he'll never work in the NBA. Talking about Victor. Exhibit A, Chet Holmgren.
Yep.
Last year to this year, he rocked up. He put on 13 pounds, and it looks good.
Yeah.
So it's amazing what 1 year in a professional sports league's weight program and a full off season does to the human body.
Yeah. I wish I would do that. I wish I would do that for me. But hey, I'm past my prime right there.
Same right here.
Yeah.
I could really use that.
I can use that, yeah. But circling back to your point about the Spurs having some issues regarding the lineup and the minutes and everything,
it's not issues. It's just going to be.
Well, it's going to be a topic of discussion among the coaching staff, like how we're going to divvy this up. And that's a great problem to have if you're San Antonio. It's an awesome problem to have. You have good players on a roster, and you got a Wemby on it. Yeah, it's just rock and roll. He is James Pledger with San Antonio Sports Star. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at @IamPledger. When we get back, we're going to continue this chat and round out the free agency moves the Spurs have made, and then ask the big questions. Should the team go after a big name player? Should they make that trade or not? Right here on Locked On Spurs. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the everydayers. Tomorrow's show will likely be about Wemby and some summer league chat along the way. And we are back right here on Locked On Spurs with James Pledger. He is the host of Extra Innings with Pledger at San Antonio Sports Star and co-host of the Saturday Morning Hangover, rocking that Stephen F. Austin stuff. By the way, thanks for tagging in for Jimenez. I got big timed.
Yeah, I saw that.
I got big timed. He decided to
you got big timed, and you got big time like late.
Yeah. He decided to wait.
There was no heads up.
Yeah. He didn't give me a heads up until maybe 30, 40 minutes after the agreed upon time to start.
It's very nice.
You know that I'm very flexible whenever time I have guests. I'll work around everybody, schedule and whatnot. So he said 7:45, 6:45, around 6:45 Central, 7:45 Eastern, good to go. So, but thank you, Pledger, for cleaning up Jimenez's mess once again. Things never change.
What'd I do?
Things never change, whether he's working with you or not. But all kidding aside, Jimenez did text me after a while. He did have an issue. He had some family stuff to take care of, but he'll be back later on this week. Hopefully he does a big time me. But let's go to round out the free agency moves. The Spurs made a deal, part of a 3-team trade involving the Heat and Cavaliers. They got Lamar Stevens, and then they got Cedi Osman and 1 second-round pick, I believe. Or was
yes,
it one second-round pick. Yeah,
it was 1 second rounder. The other one went to Miami.
Okay, thank you. Again, they had to bring in somebody maybe to fill in the Keita Bates void that he left when he went to Phoenix. The Spurs have been chasing Osman for years. I can think back to 2017. They've been after him reportedly. He's here. I think he's just going to be a great addition off the bench.
He's going to be a Spur.
He's a Spur. He's going to just give you that typical 3-and-D. That's all it's going to be.
And that's what they were looking for. They were looking for 3-and-D help that can play, 3-4. Like they don't have a ton of front court depth. They have Mamu and Zach. They have Victor and Sohan and Bassie. Like that's their front court, and Barlow, I guess, technically. Right. But he's on a 2-way, if I remember correctly, with his deal. So, there's not a whole lot of depth up in the front court, unlike the back court, which is just there's so much depth, Yeah. And so I can see both C and if you look at Cavs Twitter, they're more upset about losing Stevens than Lamar Stevens than they are CD Osman. So you got a couple of really good players that can play the 3-4 and just 3-and-D guys. And they help. They don't need their shot, but they're available. And CD also provides, like you said, 3-and-D. He provides that floor spacing that the Spurs are searching for outside of, because as they did it at times last year, but it didn't work great, like trying to play Doug McDermott at the 4. Right. So at least with CD, you got a little more size, you got a little more bulk to at least match up with more true natural 4s.
Yeah, he has some playoff experience as well. And I think, international guy in the Spurs color, shocker. Yeah, I think exactly. He'll slide in great. He's just a Spur 3D guy. So moving on, I'll give that an A, because they also got a second-round pick out of it. More. Yeah,
I mean, you didn't do anything except tape on a little bit of cap space to help you get to that cap floor.
Yeah. The other free agency move, but just a move, was they signed Wemby. It's official. He is officially a Spur. Yay!
A plus.
We could just move on with that. Wemby is officially a Spur. I don't know if they signed Sissoko yet, but I'm pretty sure that's down the road in just a matter of time.
I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
it'll be part of the news when it becomes official, whenever that is.
And by the way, did you see that attempted dunk he had last night?
Yeah. He almost obliterated Kai. He almost obliterated Kai Jones.
I was going to ask you, Pleasure, when is the funeral services for Kai Jones? Because I figured the programs and the invites. He was right there, and then Kai got him at the last second. But, I think that's it. Did I miss anything else?
No, that's pretty much the moves. And
all right,
like you said in the beginning, Brian Wright, Popovich, they all tried to tell us, look, Pop, 15 minutes after Wemby was drafted, held a press conference and said, don't skip steps.
Yep.
We're not trying to rush things with Victor. And also, people ask me the same thing about Tim Duncan. How are you going to build around him? And he said, I don't know. I got to get him on the floor first to find out what he is, to then figure out how to build around him. They're doing the same thing with Wemby. The difference between Wemby and Tim was you had David Robinson and Sean Elliott and others on that team. The build wasn't like you're talking about trying to add a superstar mega piece when you talk about Garland or Lillard. Like, that is a big disruption to your salary cap, to the amount of assets you have. So you have to be right on those. And how many times have the Spurs been technically right when it comes to big free agent moves?
Yeah,
Richard Jefferson was a miss. Like LaMarcus Aldridge, fans wanted to run him out of town 1 year into his contract. Like,
and he wanted out.
I love the fact that they're clamoring for a move that they know they'll hate in like a year and a half.
And that's the thing too. Brian
because
Wright,
they're not Spurs, they're not homegrown. Because that's always the knock. When it eventually doesn't go right with the free agent, the knock is, well, they're not a Spur because we didn't draft them. We draft and develop guys. Yet we want to go chase someone instead of drafting and developing, which Pop is trying to do and has told you about.
I would not mind if the Spurs do chase a big name player this season, simply because they have all this ass. Like, I'm afraid that this will turn into a Danny Ainge situation in Boston. Remember that? He's just sitting on these assets, and then nothing.
So who's Boston, the big name you want then?
Well, not necessarily just a big name that could be available now until trade deadline. Let's just say it's a young budding star. Pick a team. I don't care. If it is Dame, if it is somebody else, what if somebody knocks on the door?
You want to commit
if it's the right big name player.
And that's why, because you brought up Dame's name.
Yeah.
So you want to commit in his age 36 season?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about blowing up your salary cap.
Right. Yeah, I'm not team bring in Dame. I'm in team explore the opportunity to bring in a big name player. Like, I think they should.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where I stand. I stand on. I see the allure of Dame. I get it. You know, all-star, multiple all-star. Was he top 50 players of all time in the recent
75?
75. Thank you. And I get all that. And I see that. And plus two, you know, Portland's.
And he hadn't finished the season in the last couple of years due to injuries.
Well, I mean,
most of them.
I think last year.
Most of them are hip growing adductor, like they're injuries that are important to a basketball player because of the movements that you make. And so, like, the types of injuries that Dame suffers at least concerns me, especially at his age, about how he's going to continue to play as he gets more advanced with all that money on the line as much as it is. So that's a concern for me with Dame. But when it comes to like the making a big move, I understand, because I'm as much about a big move as anyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see it. They're fun. The problem is you can miss and it can blow things up. And the staunch, adamant nature that the Spurs are talking about these youth players. Like Pop said specifically, I can't wait to see Wemby with these other kids.
Mm-hmm.
They've taken big jumps this offseason. What has he seen that we haven't to this point from April to now? Because they aren't doing anything other than bringing their own back. They aren't trying to get in on a big move. I think the big move that gets them to the cap floor is a lot like they did the last, 2, 3, 4 off seasons. We saw the Derek White extension before the season started, the DeJounte Murray extension before the season started, and the Keldon Johnson extension before the season started. Devin Vassell is going to be the extension that gets them to the cap floor.
Right? Yeah.
They're seeing something out of Devin and Keldon. Like, they think they have a big three on their hands, I think.
And I think, too, as we both talked about this on Locked On Spurs, this is a team that's a lot better than the record was last year. If you don't tank, perhaps they're sniffing low 40s, maybe high 30s. They're in that zone. Now
I give them mid to low 30s if they weren't tanking.
Yeah, you throw in Wemby now, and all these kids had an entire season getting curb stomped, and they got a lot of lessons under their belt, and you can't tell me they're going to want a repeat of that.
And not just curb stomp, they're just a year better. They've developed.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Wesley. He added more size to his frame. He also said that he's gotten more explosive on his drives. You have Sohan, who added more bulk to his frame. You have Wemby, who's getting into the pro training, and he's probably going to thicken up a little bit, at least to how he wants to. And then, of course, you have Malachi, who, at least on photos, it looks like he's added some more muscle to him. So, this is a very, very exciting team. I would not be surprised if things start going maybe around the All-Star break, and then after the All-Star break, they get really cooking. I would not be surprised to see them on some 8-9 game winning streaks.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them start fast like they did last year, because people are going to, remember this is a bad team, might overlook them early, but B, it's a team that got better throughout the season. They're probably more cohesion coming into the season than there has been in a few years, because they're basically running it back.
Right.
So there's not going to be this learning feeling out other than Victor. I think they could get off to a fast start. Yeah. And especially the crowds are going to be lit at the AT&T Center. Everybody's going to want to see Wemby. So they're going to have a whole new element behind them. They're not used to having, stands for the Golden State game, which is a huge crowd yelling and screaming their butts off.
Sure. It's going to be exciting times in San Antonio. But overall, yeah, I mean, again, just to reiterate, I'm team go explore a big name if it's possible, not necessarily Dame, but let's just see how the season moves on. Because if you can add a weapon, after they got some time in together, maybe, and you think, oh, you know what, this X player could really add in some more punch now, I think they should do that. I mean, it's part of their due diligence. I would hope so. And what we see so far from Brian Wright, he definitely does his due diligence, and he'll make sure to do that. He is James Pledger with San Antonio Sports Star. Pledger, brag about your new show, Extra Innings, and of course, SMH.
Well, Extra Innings is a fun new venture I get to have where I get to kind of take all the stuff that happened throughout the day on R&R in the morning and the Blitz, and then find what they said that I don't agree with and kind of have the last word.
Keeping them in check.
So I very much enjoy that. It's fun. I encourage callers, people to get at us on our YouTube page at SA Sports Star, comment along there, subscribe, like for when we go live. It's a ton of fun. And Saturday Morning Hangover, of course, me, Jack, and Katie. Jack and I had a great time this past weekend just reacting to all of the news that came out. And the funny thing was, as soon as we cut our mic, Shams dropped the Dame wants this trade.
Oh, man.
I was so upset.
We're going to get extra innings with Pledger. That's what we should have got, an extra.
Exactly.
But again, he is James Pledger. James, thanks for filling in for Jimenez. We'll give him the business the next time he is on Locked On Spurs. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. You guys are the everydayers. Come back tomorrow. We'll likely have some early Summer League reaction. And we're still waiting for that Las Vegas game. That's when it gets going right now. Wemby will play those. Again, reminder everybody, Wemby is not playing in Sacramento. I had people ask me, where's Wemby? He's not playing. He'll be there in Las Vegas. And then
see you in Vegas.
We'll definitely see what he has. But for James Pledger, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lot on this episode of Locked On Spurs.